This is the brain. This is your brain on pleasure. This is your brain during a pathway, on a pathway that is the dopamine pathway. Okay, this is the dopamine pathway of the brain. It starts in a very central area of the brain known as the pons and spreads to other major areas of the brain. Some key areas of the brain include the frontal cortex, which is your active knowledge of the feelings that are going on. It's this active knowledge that something's happening and you are aware of it going on. All of these central aspects are going through central parts of the brain which transfer messages back and forth, but there's a major part of the brain dopamine impacts, which is the amygdala, part of that fight or flight reflex, which actually has very major aspects when feeling this intense pleasure. It's very interesting there. But then we've got serotonin. Now check this out. Right? If dopamine impacts these aspects of the brain, here's serotonin. Serotonin, you can see, is far wider reaching. It goes to all sorts of parts of the brain. And each aspect, dopamine and serotonin, can work together to give you a feeling of wellness. But what's the difference between them? What's the difference between dopamine and serotonin? If you had the choice between pleasure and happiness, what would you choose and why? Well, pleasure has been linked to some brilliantly lovely feelings. However, strictly speaking, the dopamine reward pathway of the brain is very much linked to addiction. It's very much linked to aspects of short-term benefit, right? Short-term benefit. However, it's also very visceral. You feel it in the body. You can feel that warmth, that tingling sensation, and often makes the brain want more. Right, it wants more of it. It wants more. It craves that reward. It's a good thing to have a reward pathway, because the reward pathway of the brain is there to say, that thing was great, let's do that again. When usually speaking, that great thing is very good for you. But in terms of today's society, often that reward pathway can be quite negative in terms of certain addictions. Ultimately, it's something where too much can be a bad thing. Serotonin, however, is long-lasting. It is considered not addictive. It's this feeling of a long-term contentment. Long-term contentment, right? It is what's known as ethereal, which is it's felt sort of in the brain. It can, for example, it actually is it is a hormone that can inspire behavior such as giving and volunteering, which is amazing new research. Generally speaking, serotonin is something that occurs when shared with others. Usually speaking, serotonin is shared with others, whereas dopamine is a sort of a solo experience often. You know, eating something incredibly tasty, right? Something like sugar, which some people have written about already. The thing about serotonin is that too little of it can lead to depression. Now, my question to you all, with everything you've just seen, where's cuddling here? Would you say that cuddling is dopamine? Would you say that cuddling is serotonin? Would you say that cuddling is both in sort of equal measures? What do you think? Cuddling is this beautiful, beautiful array, this cavalcade of emotions and hormones rushing through your body, and ultimately is a mixture of both, leaning slightly towards the serotonin end. It can lead to that long-term feelings of contentment, but also is very short-term pleasure. Very interesting. I would suggest to anyone in the world to think about behaviors that you do outside of cuddling and think, is this something that's giving me pleasure or happiness? Because we all could do with a bit more serotonin. And something that brings happiness is wonderful. Happiness, something long-term, reading a beautiful book, relaxing with a good friend, playing a game, playing a board game, something lovely. Dopamine, you may feel that it's incredibly wicked to do this crazy rush of fun, but sometimes that's short-lived and we want that ongoing mixture. But now it leads me to my favorite hormone, which is the magic of oxytocin. Look at that. Just look at it again. It's just beautiful. Look at that thing. What even is oxytocin? Oxytocin is linked with incredible aspects of life. Where dopamine and serotonin are generally more sort of behavioral, that you do things and it gives you this big mix, there are very specific occurrences that lead to oxytocin. Because oxytocin is colloquially termed the love hormone. Actually, I'm going to change my colour to that deep red that was before, because I just feel like if we're talking about love, we need that deep red. We call it the love hormone. People find this absolutely beautiful. And the love hormone oxytocin is all about feelings of love. When you think of someone or even something like a plush toy and you feel love for it, that's oxytocin allowing you to do so. It's to do with trust. It's to do with connection. It can be to do with lust. It can be to do with companionship and attraction. Now, of course, with all of these, we're talking about relationships. Oxytocin has been linked as a foundational hormone for building relationships. Foundational hormone for building relationships. Now, here are some behaviors that I think are essential for building oxytocin. And I wonder if anyone can recognize these. Okay, acts of service. These are things to build oxytocin in yourself and others. So acts of service. Maybe that's giving someone a massage. Maybe it's taking the bins out without someone needing to ask. Maybe it's doing the washings. Small things. Maybe it's just, I don't know, putting a blanket over someone. Acts of service. We've got physical touch. Physical touch. The idea of physically touching someone, building that oxytocin, giving a hug, giving massage, anything like that, building physical touch. We've got giving gifts. We've got words of affirmation. I love this. Right, words of affirmation. So talking to someone with eye contact. Telling someone that they're amazing. And finally, we've got quality time. These are considered 5 incredibly important love building, oxytocin building behaviors. Oh, I love that. Discovering a shared understanding and appreciation with someone. Amazing. Spending quality time with them, talking. I mean, a lot of these can kind of be melded into multiple aspects of one relationship, and I adore that. All of this leads to that positive relationship building, and it's just incredible. Now, the question that we've been dying to kind of answer is, well, do animals cuddle? And I guess the question is, do animals have a reason to build love, trust, connection, lust, companionship of an attraction? Or do animals have oxytocin? And the answer is unequivocally yes. No question whatsoever. What you're about to have is so many gorgeous pictures of animals cuddling. It's just incredible. The number of animals that cuddle, across species as well. And you'll know this. Anyone here that has a pet will know that they'll come to you for cuddles. It's just beautiful. That cuddle, that building of relationship, of trust, of companionship, of solidarity. Of course, animals have this feeling. Some absolutely beautiful images are out there of animals cuddling. And if you ever want to spend a day just having a great time, just search the term animals cuddling. If you have access to Netflix, My Octopus Teacher, I highly recommend. And this scene, which is one of the sort of second half scenes, is an image of the main person within it having a cuddle with an octopus. The octopus went over and cuddled him for an extended amount of time. But I want to read a quote about animals and cuddling. Okay, I want to read a quote about animals and cuddling, and it goes a little something like this. I guess they find some form of pleasure. This is talking about animals. There must be mechanisms that make these contacts pleasurable to them. Otherwise, they would reject them. So this is talking about why do animals come for a cuddle? Well, there's got to be something within them that gives that level of pleasure. For social mammals, it's very simple. Physical contact leads to the production of certain hormones, especially oxytocin, that nurture attachment and that are linked to a form of well-being. And since physical contact triggers this chemistry, it also reinforces the need in animals to pursue this contact. We are animals. We have this beautiful feeling during a cuddle, so we might pursue it. Not everyone has that feeling, though, as was mentioned before. But, as saying here, I'm just going to have to go through all these to go back to it. Acts of service, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, quality. These are aspects of oxytocin building that someone would love. That's part of their love language, something that they enjoy happening for them, that builds oxytocins for them, and it makes us come back for them. It makes us want more of them. This chemical behavioral glue, I love that phrase, chemical behavioral glue, brings together members of social species. Without this mechanism that makes contact pleasant, they would tend to stay far away from each other. So basically speaking, if we see animals that are staying close together, we can make very major theories grounded in quite a lot of evidence that they must have some form of oxytocin, dopamine or serotonin bringing them together, allowing them to make these social contacts. Not all animals do this. Not all animals have embraces. Some are incredibly cold when near each other. So, we're coming to the near end of this, and I would like you to have a little look at these images here, and I would love for you to tell me number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. What do you think these pictures represent? What do you think these pictures represent in terms of the benefits of regular hugs? Unity and compassion for diversity. I love that. What a great phrase. Unity. I'm going to write just unity as a phrase on it. Number 3, emotional resilience, immune system. Amazing. Emotional and immune boost. Lovely. What else have we got here? Number 1, generally relaxing. It's a de-stress. Excellent. It's a de-stressor. Number 3, self-esteem. Self-esteem. Wait, do you mean... Oh, you meant 4. I thought you might have meant 4. Yes, absolutely. Self-esteem. Self-love. Oh, what a lovely phrase. Anyone got anything for number 2? What do you think number 2 might mean? 4, self-affirmation. Oh, gorgeous. Self-affirmation. and appreciation. Tactile sensitivity. Oh, that's interesting. So health, sensitivity. Number 2, and to be honest, these are all correct. There was no sort of preset answers to all of this. Everything here is correct. I think one thing I would add for number 5 as to my idea of what it was, and this was already mentioned beautifully with the idea of unity, is actually a level of acceptance. And this is exactly what they wrote. Unity and acceptance and compassion of diversity. I forgot to write it down. Number 2, taking time for yourself. Excellent stuff. Regular hugs, and by the way, all of this is backed by research. Okay, there's no aspect of this conversation that we've had so far that isn't backed on research one way or another. Everything here is considered a positivity. Some people dislike generally having hugs and cuddles, and that's totally okay with them. However, for those that don't feel uncomfortable by them, having these regular hugs can ultimately lead to you for being a healthier person emotionally, physically, and socially. Amazing. All thanks to oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. Beautiful. Now, here's a question. Who do you love? So I've asked this question to many, many, many people across my life, right? As part of a organisation I used to work for, where we'd go around different schools and we'd ask sort of different questions about upbringing and work and things like that. Oh, you love the music, amazing. And on average, I've found that when I ask this question to individual people and I say to them, who do you love? And they'll say their family. Who do you love? Then their friends. You know, who do you love? Who do you love? Asking constantly, who do you love? Often it takes people 10 or more times, and sometimes never, to say arguably the most important person in the entire world to love, which is yourself. Where we live, different parts of the world have a different kind of impact and a different understanding of what self-love is. Some people find it sort of arrogant and narcissistic to say that they love themselves, or to hear that other people love themselves, but loving yourself is incredibly important. You are the most important person to you, because you are you. Accepting oneself and giving self-love can be a major step to achieving a serotonin boost of happiness. Major therapeutic studies have found that often when people are going through things like anxiety, depression, that can often stem from a lack of self-love. That first step of simply, and it can be a bit weird to look in the mirror and say I love you, but I highly suggest it. It's a beautiful moment once you kind of get over the silliness of it sometimes. So, I'm going to go for something a little bit wacky, and I invite you to show a bit of self-love right now. Okay, I invite you to show a bit of self-love. And I'd love to know how you feel doing this. I've got a couple of options. Option 1, find a mirror somewhere. Actually, I've got 3 options, I suppose. Option 1, find a mirror somewhere. Look at yourself in that mirror and tell yourself you love you. And try to mean it. It can be quite weird and funny and silly, but you know, if you're alone, that could be quite fun to do. Option 2, this is my second option, give yourself a 20-second hug, a 20-second cuddle. Option 3, do both at the same time. See what you can do. I look forward to a day where maybe we can all hang out and have one massive love hug together. Okay? Have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm going to stop it there. See you later. Bye-bye.